Hello everyone, the Cider Drinker here, and welcome back to another Cider Drinker Top 10. Now, if you've seen my last video, you'll see that I've already done my top 10 favourite ciders list of reviews 351 to 450. And you know what that means, don't you? Yes, it's now time to dive into the bottom and scrape the bottom of the cider barrel out until there's absolutely nothing left. This is my top 10 least favourite ciders of reviews 351 to 450. Now, in case you haven't seen my my last video, well, firstly, go and watch that first and then come back and watch this. But secondly, for those that don't know, I do things a little bit differently in that I don't do a top 10 best and worst ciders, like, period. I do it per 100 reviews I do a top 10 least favourite and favourite ciders list. And then I would imagine eventually once I reach, I don't know, 1,000 cider reviews, which is going to be a long time away, I might then do a top 10 best and worst ciders of all time. But that's a long time coming. That's well in the future. So, what has made this pile of rubbish on this list? Well, before I get into that, a couple of stipulations. One, it's one cider per cider maker or franchise, so you won't see the same company adorn this list all the way through. And obviously, no ciders from any beer or cider festivals that I've attended. To be honest, the last few beer festivals I've been to, there hasn't really been that great of a selection of ciders, or I've already had them already. But either way, they've not made this list. So, before we actually get into the top 10, it's a little bit of an interesting one this time. It's not all dominated by 2s and 1s out of 10s. So the I suppose the ciders that I've had haven't been as bad as my last lists, but the highest rating I've given for this is a 4 out of 10. So it still shows that these things aren't really that great. Before we actually get into the, well, I suppose the bottom 10, I guess you could say, there is always a dishonourable mention, and this one comes in at a 4 out of 10. And do you know what? It's sort of a well, it's not really a love-hate relationship with this company, but they've been pretty middle of the road, to be fair. You know, some of their ciders are genuinely decent, but this one just was altogether quite bland. It's Celtic Marches with their Cracklin Rosie Perry. There wasn't anything necessarily abhorrently bad about this Perry, but it just was so nondescript and lacking flavour that there really wasn't a lot to actually say about it, which is a shame, because as I said, a couple of their other ciders are actually really, really good. It's just a shame that this one lets them down a little bit slightly. So if you are going to try out any Celtic Marches ciders out, I'd say probably don't try this one first. Go for their Thundering Molly or their Slack Alice, you know, one of those two, because they are, in my opinion, better ciders, but that's me. So, that's the dishonourable mention. So, let's kick off this list of bad ciders with number 10. And number 10 is a shop-bought cider. You know, big surprise there. In fact, quite a lot of these are shop-bought ciders. Not all, but a lot of them are. This one comes from Aldi, and it scored a 4 out of 10 from me, and it is their Twisted Tree Vintage. Yeah, even though it was only 99 pence for the can, I must say that it really wasn't that great at all. By the way, if you do want to check out my full reviews of all these ciders, just click on the card that will appear in this corner here, and it will take you straight to that review. So if you want to see my full views of what Twisted Tree Vintage was like, then just check that out. But yeah, I was really, really not impressed with it. For it being a vintage, it just really wasn't that great in flavour or anything like that. Even at 99 pence, I still felt a little bit cheated out of my money. So, sorry Aldi, not your greatest ciders there, but there you go. Number 10 goes to Twisted Tree Vintage from Aldi. Number 9 is another 4 out of 10, and it's actually from a company that I've not featured for a long, long time on this channel. It's been quite a few years, but Bulmers have reared their heads again, and they've basically created this Orchard Pioneers range, which they've sort of changed the name of now because they've removed their name from it, and they now just call them Orchard Pioneers to make it seem like they are, you know, it's a different cider, but they're not. So at number 9, it's Bulmers Kiers Cloudy Apple. And the best way that I can describe Kiers Cloudy Apple is it's cloudy Bulmers. That's basically the shortest review that I can give you, but if you do, you know, want a more in-depth one, then obviously check out my full review. But yeah, it was essentially an even less tasting, cloudy Bulmers. Not really much more I can say about that, and that's why it made number 9, Bulmers Kiers Cloudy Apple, with a 4 out of 10. Number 8 is a cider that, to me, well, to be perfectly honest, it shouldn't really exist. I don't know what these guys were thinking of making this cider. It scored a 3 out of 10 from me, and it is Jack Daniel's cider. Now, for the price that they are charging for these bottles, which is quite a lot, you don't even get 500 millilitres, you get 330. For the price that you pay for this cider, it's really not worth it at all. If you're going to want a Jack Daniel's, have a Jack Daniel's. If you're going to want a cider, have a cider. I'd love to know what apples they use in it, because it certainly isn't any nice tasting apples, that's for sure. The marriage of it it doesn't work out. It just really doesn't. It's another one of those companies that's just jumped on the cider bandwagon and gone, yeah, we can do that. No one will notice. But yeah, we have. In fact, I've not actually seen it on the shop shelves for a long, long time, so maybe they've actually seen the error of their ways and stopped doing it. Maybe because it was rubbish. So number 8 is Jack Daniel's cider. Number 7 is not a shop-bought cider. It is a cider that I got from an Orchard box, cider box, and it was one that had an extremely long date on it. I actually had it for about, I'd say 2.5 years before I reviewed it, and it still had a 1.5 year date on it. Already alarm bells started ringing at that, but the number 7 spot with a 3 out of 10 goes to Vachery Farm Cider. Ooh, this thing did not taste good at all. It wasn't even full of sulfites, because I didn't get any of the eggy tastes. I can't even begin to describe what the taste was like. It was sharp, but it was sort of sour at the same time as well. Just generally not that nice of a tasting cider. And I thought, well, maybe it's because I've left it too long. Maybe it's because, you know, I should have had it fresher. But I checked other reviews online of this on Untapped and everything, and everyone else basically said the same. So I don't know what these guys are doing with their cider, but it's obviously not working. They also need to tweak their recipe a little bit. But unfortunately, at number 7 is Vachery Farm Cider with 3 out of 10. Number 6 is one of my most recent reviews that I've done. It's the first 2 out of 10 that's made the list, and unfortunately, it's one that is sort of near and dear to me because it's from a company that I work with. It's Co-op's Full Flavour Cider at number 6. Oh, well, I mean, Bulmers has sort of made the list again because it's made by Bulmers, but it's Bulmers but worse. It's flavourless, it's got metallic taste to it, it's chemically... Oh, man. I didn't expect it to be this bad. I thought it was just going to be another Bulmers clone or something like that, but I would rather have Bulmers than have Co-op cider. That's how pretty bad it was. Even for 99 pence, for a 568ml pint bottle, I definitely would not buy it again, that is for sure. So number 6 is Co-op's Full Flavour Cider. Number 5 is... again, not another shop-bought cider. This is, again, one from an Orchard box cider box. And, oh dear, yeah, Clive's Fruit Farm Wobble Juice. Wow, I even did a little sketch of this because I thought, oh yeah, this is going to be good. So I did a little sketch at the start, and oh wow, I was wholly disappointed with this one. Yeah, I didn't expect it to be like tasting as bad as it did, but it did, and that's why I only scored a 2 out of 10. Yeah, not going to go into too much more detail, just watch my full review of it, but yeah, if you see Clive's Fruit Farm Wobble Juice, I would say definitely give it a miss. That's why it's made my number 5 spot. Number 4 brings it right back to the supermarkets, and it brings it back to HCC Cider Company, or Herefordshire Cider Company, or whatever they want to be called. They made the number 1 list on the last one, so it's not as bad as it was last time, but their Black Pear still scored a 2 out of 10. It's basically the pear version of their apple variety, I suppose. Still chock full of chemicals, still ridiculously strong, still ridiculously cheap, and still ridiculously avoidable. I would not buy this can again. I basically took a bullet so you don't have to. So, it had been tempting me in my local home bargain store for a while, and I thought, how bad can it be? And the verdict is pretty bad. So, yeah, number 4 spot easily goes to HCC Black Pear. Number 3. Now then, I've not seen this cider, well, cider pop, I suppose, on the shop shelves for a little while. Maybe these guys have gone bust because maybe their ciders were rubbish. Number 3 goes to Blind Pig's Bourbon and Blueberry, which only scored a 2 out of 10. Now, if my previous reviews of blueberry flavoured ciders, or blueberry cider pops is anything to go by, blueberry does not work. And once again, this was a fantastic example of that. Oh dear, and with the inclusion of bourbon in it as well, it just did not work at all. You had the crapness of the blueberry, and then they just stick this bourbon on top, and it just... oh man, it just didn't work. It was awful. It really, really was. I couldn't finish the bottle. I tipped it down the sink. And I'm glad to see the back of it, actually, and I'm glad to see that it's not on the supermarket shelves, because, well, clearly other consumers saw sense as well. So number 3 is Blind Pigs, Bourbon and Blueberry. And so number 2 is the first of 2 1 out of 10s during this period. But this one... well, it was pretty terrible. It was very, very terrible, but it is nowhere near as bad as the number 1, but we'll get to that in a second. Number 2 goes to Friel's Raspberry, Lime and Mint. Now, I will say that Friel's Vintage is actually a pretty decent cider. I quite like that. However, their Raspberry, Lime and Mint, what were they thinking? I really do not know what they were thinking about this one. Just the combination of the 3 just does not meld well in a drink at all. Do a raspberry one, do a lime one, do a mint one. Separate the 3, but do not include all 3 of them in the same drink, because it was absolutely horrid. It really, really was. Again, I think they still... in fact, actually, yeah, they still do it, and they have it in a keg. No! Don't buy it. Don't buy the can, and especially don't buy the keg. Buy the keg of their vintage. Yeah, that's great. But don't buy their raspberry, lime and mint. Even their hopped one was really good. But yeah, they definitely misstepped the mark with this one. It was absolutely terrible. So, number 2 spot easily goes to Friel's Raspberry, Lime and Mint. And so, the bottom of the barrel. Well, in fact, it's not even the bottom of the barrel. It's gone way below the barrel, and it's dug a hole right into the core of the earth. Number 1, with, well, I was very, very tempted to give this a 0 out of 10, but I thought, nah, I'm not going to deviate from my ratings, but if I did give a 0 out of 10, this thing would definitely get it. It is Smirnoff's Passion Fruit and Lime Cider Pop. Oh, it sort of pains me to just remember how abysmal this thing was. I can't even call it a drink. It wasn't a drink. It's the only liquid I've put into my mouth in a review that's nearly made me gag and throw up on camera. That's how bad it is. Not even Frosty Jacks did that to me. HCC Gold didn't do that to me. But this very, very nearly did. I cannot even begin to describe you how utterly atrocious the tastes were in it. I have no idea what Smirnoff were thinking of making these ciders, but strangely enough they are still on supermarket shelves, so clearly people are enjoying them. But I really can't see how, because it's a cider that includes vodka, but it's a 4% cider pop. It just boggles my mind. And they're charging £2.49 a bottle, roughly, for this thing. Why? I do not understand it. I don't know why people like it. Yeah, it very easily makes my #1 spot on my top 10 least favourite ciders list. And you know what? It's probably my least favourite cider, period, so far. I would have Frosty Jacks over this any day of the week. That's how bad it really was. So, there you go. That is another top 10 favourite and least favourite ciders lists done for another period. So, you're going to have to wait another 100 reviews for another top 10 cider list like this. However, having said that, I do have some ideas from one of my followers for more top 10 lists in the future, so watch out for them. But for now, I will see you on the next Cider Drinker Cider Review, which will hopefully be very soon. But by the time this goes up, I will have been and enjoyed Colchester Beer Festival. I'm really looking forward to trying out the ciders there. But until then, I will have to see you on the next video. Take care, guys. Until next time.